This is Soundwaves KPFK, the soundtrack of the World Wide Web. And in all seriousness, I am your host, Abraham Beltran. The man to my right, Damon Aaron.
Hello.
My apologies for the seriousness of this, but seeing as I like to call myself the James Lipton of radio, we're going to do this James Lipton style, if you don't mind, listeners. Is that okay with you? Nod your head if that's cool. Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah.
So, Damon Aaron, first and foremost, sir, thank you.
Thank you, senor.
For coming out. I know the student body has been waiting to see you for quite some time. And we've been talking about it all week, and there's been posters all around campus, so it's been fantastic. The first thing I want to touch upon is your album.
Yes.
Highlands. Tell me about that.
It's not very good, James Lipton.
It's not.
The whole, from the here, we got to get the diaphragm.
Oh, yeah.
On there for me.
Highlands. Tell me about that.
I'm supposed to have little blue cards.
You should. Okay.
Anyway,
Highlands. Talk about Highlands.
New record, Ubiquity. Yeah, it's so hard to talk about. Came out a few months ago. We like it.
Where was it birthed from, man? Where was that album? Where did that come from?
Oh, it's I wish I was better talking about it that quickly, but frankly, but man, Highlands is just slightly different, a little departure for me. I think songwriting wise, kind of maybe if the only things that were truly deliberate about it were trying to sort of destroy this guy with acoustic guitar sort of paradigm that I think people assume that's who I'm going to be when I show up.
Well, that's the only picture I can find of you on Google.
Probably, yeah. That's everyone loves that shot. But there is a funny assumption, that if you play guitar, thus you are, Jack Johnson, troubadour,
Dave Matthews.
Yeah, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just mean, I find it frustrating to that's the only version you can be. Is this version people. And it's just people want you to be what they understand, maybe. I don't know, but I thought, if anything, on this record, I did really want to... so the other part of that is also production-wise. I think a lot of folks knew me from doing very austere, kind of very open sort of productions, not as layered sometimes. I definitely would err on economy, like we were saying before. Right. So I think this record is a little bit much more... little bit denser, thicker, deeper. I definitely try to mix it lower and higher. Mm-hmm. It's mixed more like almost like an analog record. Where if you listen to it, actually, it's not as bright in some places as some people's mixes would be. But for me, it's actually brighter than some of the mixes I had made. Right. Because I tend to definitely have a slightly different take on what I'm going for. But anyway, that's some of the things I was thinking about when I was working on it were those type of things.
Now, why the title Highlands?
It's funny, I had a hard time naming it. I had a couple other names that were going with this sequence of songs, and actually I had a couple running titles. I had a couple running names
such as
bands. I had a whole series of these crazy names that I thought were just ridiculously long. Like, it would be like Highlands, like Highlands, Bird, Swan. I don't know. It would have this whole litany. I can't even remember all of them, and I had piles of them, and I thought, you just sound ridiculous. It just sounds like you're trying to be clever or something. But some of Highlands, the long and short, I thought it was kind of funny because it's kind of a somewhat down record in some ways, kind of somber, introspective.
Right.
It's almost in some ways was a little bit of a joke. It could have been called Lowlands almost, And the other part is that we live in the Highlands. I wanted to talk about place, and so some of the intentional part of this record was sort of marking place of living in the foothills in Altadena, but just the idea of living in this kind of I definitely was thinking things that are maybe esoteric to other folks, thinking about being Scots-Irish and people living in the foothills in the South in Virginia, living in the foothills in when they were in Ireland, and being squeezed up between people. I was interested in those sort of, maybe, even though maybe that's not important to other people, that was some of the place and time was important to me.
Almost like your method of transcending that being crunched in, and you just kind of ascended.
I mean, I don't know if it's that. Maybe just marking the place, saying this is where we're from. I mean, some of it is just straight claiming, representing. Just like Highlands, we're from this. This is where we are. We're not in the middle of the city. We're up to some of it's silly, like maybe just representing, and some of it is very much so about saying, I think place is important. I think state of mind is important. Intention is important. Saying, and a lot of this record for me has this, there's a competing metaphorical storylines going on. So a lot of this, to me, I have these other emotional connections that the story doesn't tell.
Right.
And,
Well, and I've listened to the album front to back, I'd say 5 or 6 times, but this week I think because I was just in a good headspace and I discovered the new tea at Target. But it's tea, it's regular tea. I don't. But there's a very, how can I put it? You almost have like this happy melancholy sound on this album. It's like it's like a longing for a day that has come and gone, and I think Better for me kind of exemplifies that. And obviously it's the song that gets the most recognition, but I really think it exemplifies kind of the tone of the record. You know, because I talk about this with my man Anthony Valdez all the time, and you know, there's certain records that have a song that sets the tone. And for me, that just seems like you know, we could be so much better, but you're still kind of smiling upon it. Like,
yeah, it's a funny, you know, I feel like some of that sort of good and bad. I ask myself these questions all the time. Like, maybe you should write a happy song.
Right.
I would say that's always often is true of my songwriting, for better for worse. And I do think Better is pretty much typifies the mood of this record, and tells the stories I'm trying to tell. I think that one and the acoustic song Fall, which is the only true like guitar song.
Right.
Those to me are kind of both really sad, but have this other thing about them. And I guess I am always interested in how these things. I don't know. I don't know how to be in any one mood, I feel like often.
But is there a reason why you decided to explore kind of that tonality or that
No, I mean
space?
some of that so much is accidental in some ways. So some of it, like the happy sad thing, is just sort of who I am, I think. I always sort of relate to that kind of Brazilian, like, happy sad thing.
Right.
I think it's probably why I love Jobim or Susanna Baca or, you know, these people, or Marvin Gaye, you know, that this sort of salt and sugar. But there was something on this record where I made a choice as I was working on it to tell stories that sort of seemed like they were these sort of sad love songs, but in fact were sort of these. It was fun. I thought it was interesting. Like I don't know if Ubiquity did it or someone put out a little review about Better, and they accurately described it as a call about sort of about peace and our times, and about commented on the war and stuff. And I thought, I was shocked that someone got that out of the song.
Right.
But that's actually pretty accurate. That's actually is very much what that's about. But I definitely try to make it sort of ambiguous so you can bring
nice.
What you need, and that's all challenging to do it in a way where you're not being oblique and stupid and just saying words that are, you know, for no reason. You're trying to create this sort of economic narrative that also has another side to it.
Well, I think, you know, in talking with Yukimi Nagano about this, there's a very similar, I see a correlation in their Little Dragon sound and your sound, in that, number one, there's an economy of sound, but more importantly, there's this ability to tell a narrative in a very simple form.
Right.
And much like the Beatles, it's very, and I'm sorry to make this comparison. No, I'm not sorry.
No,
you should own it, because I definitely, I get that same kind of smile and that same feeling deep down where, like, you can see this being a relevant story years from now. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
You're not talking about a particular time and place. It's just it's very ethereal.
Listen to Soundwaves on KPFK on Saturdays from noon to 2. Thank you.